I want you to think back to a time when you were rewarded for disobedience at work. It's tough, right? For most people, it just doesn't happen. Why is that? Today we're looking at the Stanley Parable, Ultra Deluxe version, and the way it plays with disobedience like no other game I've played. What if learning at work said yes to no? What would that look like, and how could it benefit learners? This is Ready Employee 1, the channel looking at what video games can teach us about the future of learning and work. On this show, each episode we pick a game and dig into one of its core mechanics. We'll explore why that mechanic works so well and consider how it could be applied to learning. A friend once told me that any time they're presented with an iPad in a store, they work out what combination of taps on the screen will cause the app to break.
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
This wasn't out of malice, but a simple curiosity, I think. When I played the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe from Crows, I was reminded of that story. And to save time, I'm just going to call it Stanley from now on. Stanley is a game about a lot of things. A satire on player agency, a rebuttal to the video games are art discourse, a game that explores the worst aspects of gaming in 2022. The reason we're looking at Stanley is because of how well it is able to convey those messages through what I think is its most important mechanic: disobedience. This is a game that demands you challenge it, because 9 times out of 10 it has something waiting for you, something that rewards your curiosity, your insubordination. Through your disobedient actions, you unlock more of the game, more of the story, and more hidden endings. Wouldn't we want learners to unlock more of their story or hidden or different directions for their careers and work? That's where disobedience as a core skill comes in.
I guess now we just wait. I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree?
Stanley, at its most basic, is a walking simulator. A walking simulator is exactly what you think it is. You play as a character where the majority of your interactions with the world are walking around and exploring it. There are typically some buttons to press, or things to open and look inside. Great examples of walking simulators are Firewatch and Gone Home. In Stanley, you begin the game in room 427, the office of employee number 427, Stanley's office. The game is narrated by a well-spoken Brit. It's not far off from what you're listening to now.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
The narrator tells the story of Stanley, and you are free to follow that story. Or not.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
That can be as simple as refusing to leave your office, or taking the right door rather than the left. But the true magic comes when you keep pushing the limits. When asked to descend into a spooky basement, I chose to go back up again, and again, and again. There was no guidance or clues to keep trying it. I was just curious to see what might happen. What I was rewarded with blew my mind, and had me actually exclaim aloud, "Holy shit, I can't believe they let me do that." Immediately, I was confronted with a terrifying thought. What else have I missed? Here's the thing. The disobedient actions I was exhibiting were all completely planned for. All that freedom wasn't freedom at all.
At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map, until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along.
My player agency was a complex network of branching narratives, but the nature in which I uncovered them made me feel empowered.
Sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get well, someday it is.
This curiosity disguised as disobedience had me challenging and questioning everything around me. My rebelliousness had been channeled into a positive. If one of your goals is increasing the curiosity of your learners, let's talk about how we could do that by making space for disobedience.
Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever.
There are many places where disobedience can be put into learning. But there are also some pretty clear rules for where I don't think it should be. So to help you, I've come up with my do's and don'ts of disobedience. Try to make your choices more than a simple left or right door. What would no choice elicit? What happens if you keep making the wrong choice? Find ways to add choice all around the learner. This teaches learners to look closer at the world around them, beyond the obvious. The joy of discovery becomes a lot less joyful when you're bombarded by it. You don't need choice everywhere. Just make sure it counts when you do have it. Through pacing, you create contrast, which makes it hit much harder when you do give the learner that reward.
Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job.
Half the fun in Stanley is not just the act of defiance, but the reward you get in return. Finding a hidden ending needs to be worth it. How could that reward play into your learning objectives? How can rewards play into your themes and key messages?
Thank goodness, Stanley, what a close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing.
You don't want people hanging around confused, waiting for something that's just not coming. Let them know fairly quickly if there's nothing else to be found. Give learners threads to pull on, but make it clear when they've reached the end. There are times and places for disobedience. Compliance and risk, or health and safety? Probably best not. Think about when you want learners to explore these behaviours. What skills do they tie nicely with? Also, when in the learner's career? You want learners to think back to where they could have made a different choice or taken a different route. If it's too well hidden, there's less incentive to return. This goes back to hiding it in plain sight and providing threads to pull on.
I did one. Wait. Oh, goodness. Stanley, did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible.
If I'm honest, I know that encouraging disobedience is a tough sell. Regardless of the benefits, it does conjure up negative imagery. Another way to look at this is that these are critical thinking and observation skills we're exploring. Challenge what's in front of you. Don't follow instructions blindly. Don't just answer the question before you. Those are sound skills. Skills that bosses can get behind. Unless they're baddie bosses, obviously. By creating these opportunities to delight and reward learners for their curiosity, you create the muscle memory that has them always considering whether there is something hidden waiting to be found. And I think that is a great reason to encourage disobedience at work. That's everything for this episode. Let me know in the comments. What's your favourite big choice in a game and why? See you next time, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.